There was a time when everyone dreamed of finding their way to Manila. But now, more and more people are quietly finding ways to leave. What changed? Was it the city, or was it us? In just a few years, more than 500,000 people have moved out of Metro Manila. That number didn't happen by accident. Behind the familiar noise and movement is a silent migration. Young people feeling burnt out, and families realizing that life here has become too suffocating. They're not leaving because they hate the city, but because Manila has pushed them to ask, "Am I still living the life I truly want?" And what surprises most people is, the real reason isn't what you might think. If you've ever lived in Manila, or if you're simply curious about this story, leave a quick comment so we can begin this little journey together. Now let's move to the first reason. Number 10. The cost of living is rising so fast, no one can keep up anymore. Many people say that leaving Manila is a difficult decision. But for countless families, it starts with one simple feeling. I work an entire month, yet I still can't afford to live. In Manila, that feeling is far from rare. A young office worker once shared that almost her entire salary went to rent, food, and daily transportation. What saddened her most wasn't the low pay. It was the sense that no matter how hard she tried, her life never got any better. A tiny boarding room, just enough for a bed and a small fan, can cost nearly 12,000 peso a month. Eating out adds a few hundred pesos a day. Then there's commuting, electricity, water, and the internet. In the end, there's barely anything left for her future. She said there were months when she had to choose between buying basic necessities or saving a small amount to send back home. And that's when she began to wonder, is living in Manila still worth everything I'm giving up? Many people go to the capital hoping for better opportunities. But when the cost of living rises faster than their income, that hope begins to fade. Some realize that the same amount they spend on a cramped room in the city could give them double the space in nearby provinces like Cavite or Laguna. Lower expenses, lighter air, and a sense of living more naturally. Simple things that have become luxuries for many who live in Manila. The rising cost of living isn't the only reason Filipinos are leaving the capital. But for many, it's the final drop that overflows the cup, leading them toward a life that feels less pressured and more sustainable. What about you? If you've lived in Manila, did the cost of living ever make you think about leaving? Number 9. Manila traffic. The place where your time is swallowed whole every day. If you've ever been stuck in the endless line of vehicles on EDSA during the morning rush, you'll understand why many people say they're not leaving Manila because they're tired of life, but because they no longer have time to live. Sometimes, staring at a line of cars stretching beyond sight, it feels like the city is holding you still, second by second. A jeepney driver once shared that he leaves home at 4 in the morning while the sky is still dark. It's the only time he can drive comfortably. But once the sun rises, the roads instantly thicken. Passengers climb in carrying the same expression. Tired before the day even begins. According to many urban transport surveys, people in Manila can lose nearly 2 hours a day just commuting, and that's on a normal day. For office workers, the story is even clearer. Some spend almost 3 hours going to work and returning home. By the time they arrive, it's already dark. Dinner becomes a few rushed minutes before they go to bed, only to wake up and repeat the same cycle. A loop that exhausts anyone. But what pushes people to finally leave Manila isn't just the traffic. It's the fear of losing precious moments, time with family, time for their health, or simply a moment to rest. When a city forces you to give up the most valuable parts of life, you start thinking about leaving. Traffic isn't just an inconvenience. For many Filipinos, it's a daily reminder that life is passing by, and they can barely hold on to it. Have you ever been stuck on that road? And standing there in the middle of the gridlock, what did you wish for? Number 8. Pollution and overcrowding make many people feel, like they can't breathe. There are days when Manila isn't loud because of cars or people, but because of how intensely packed its rhythm has become. Some say that here, you don't really feel the wind. You only feel heat and dust. Just stepping outside during rush hour, the air can feel so heavy it almost sticks to your skin. Many families share that they didn't leave Manila because of hardship, but because their bodies started to speak up. In the early morning, the haze from traffic already blurs the view. By late afternoon, the mix of heat and smog makes breathing feel like an effort. According to many urban air quality assessments, fine dust levels in parts of Metro Manila are often significantly higher than in nearby provinces, especially during rush hours. Many Filipinos say they miss the feeling of seeing a real sky. They miss afternoons when they could open their windows to let the breeze in, rather than shutting everything tightly to keep out smoke and noise. And they miss walking without having to weave through crowds packed shoulder to shoulder on the sidewalks. What pushes people to leave isn't a single day of bad air, but years of accumulation. When every day feels too crowded, too stuffy, too lacking in personal space, you start to wonder, is there somewhere else where I can breathe a little easier? Pollution and overcrowding don't just make the city exhausting, they make people realize they need a wider space for themselves and their families. And what about you? Have you ever felt Manila becoming too suffocating to stay long-term? Number 7. High prices, but low quality. A housing paradox that frustrates many Manila residents. When people talk about living in Manila, they rarely complain about work or opportunities. What discourages them most is the place they come home to every night. Not everyone says it aloud, but many have quietly felt that their home in Manila doesn't really feel like a home. A young couple once shared their story. They moved to Manila hoping for stable jobs and a chance to build their future. But once they started looking for a place to live, reality felt very different. With rent of nearly 12,000 peso a month, all they could afford was a tiny room with damp walls, a window facing another wall, and just enough space for a bed and a few essentials. Even when they tried to keep the room clean, it always carried a faint musty smell after rainy days. Some nights they had to keep the fan running until morning because the room was too stuffy. When heavy rain came, water seeped through one corner of the wall, forcing them to lift their belongings off the floor. According to many housing market assessments, rent in Manila can cost 2 to 4 times more than in nearby provinces for the same amount of space. And that made them wonder, why do we have to accept this? Meanwhile, their relatives in Cavite or Laguna, with the same amount of money, could rent a much larger home, with a living room, a private kitchen, and even a small yard for children to play. That contrast became the turning point. The paradox of expensive yet low-quality housing doesn't just disappoint Filipinos. It makes them realize that to have a proper living space, leaving Manila might actually be the wiser choice. And you? Have you ever faced the same problem while searching for a place to live in the capital? Number 6. The slow buildup of urban pressure. Some changes don't appear all at once. They gather little by little, until one day they turn into something heavy enough to feel. For many people living in Manila, mental pressure is exactly that kind of silent weight. One man once said he never considered himself stressed. He worked hard, traveled between districts every day, lived in a small room, and thought of it as normal. But only when he left Manila for a few weeks to visit family in the province did he feel the difference. In the morning back home, he noticed he was breathing slower. His heartbeat felt lighter. His mind suddenly quieter. That's when he realized, for years in Manila, his body had been in a constant state of tension, without him even knowing. For many Filipinos, this feeling is all too familiar. The pressure doesn't only come from work, but from non-stop noise, dense crowds, tight schedules, and the constant sense of having to keep up. Some say they feel tired even before doing anything, simply because life in Manila keeps them in defense mode. According to many urban mental health studies, people living in major cities are more prone to stress and burnout, largely because of fast and overwhelming environments. And Manila, with its never-ending pace, is one of the clearest examples. What's most alarming is this: not everyone realizes they're tired. Not until they step out of the city and suddenly feel their body grow lighter, as if releasing an invisible weight. Mental pressure doesn't leave visible scars, yet it's one of the biggest reasons many Filipinos decide to leave Manila, to reclaim peace for their minds. And you? Have you ever felt this shift after spending some time away from the city? Number 5. The dream of a green, affordable, peaceful life no longer belongs to the capital. Some people say that in Manila, the sky always seems to have a thin, hazy layer over it, making it hard to see a true shade of blue. And from little things like that, many begin to realize that the dream of a greener, calmer, and more affordable life is slowly slipping away from them. As life becomes more expensive and crowded, people naturally return to the most basic needs: clean air, enough space to move, and a quiet environment where the mind can rest. But in Manila, those things are becoming harder and harder to find. According to many urban environment assessments, Metro Manila has some of the lowest green space ratios compared to nearby provinces. And with rapid development, the remaining patches of green are gradually overshadowed by high-rise buildings, malls, and new road networks. Many Filipinos say that what they long for isn't a big house or expensive furniture. It's simply the feeling of opening a window and catching a breeze instead of the smell of exhaust. Some want a small corner to grow a few plants. Some want space for their children to run around instead of being limited to the inside of the house. Things that seem simple have become luxuries in a city as crowded as Manila. In Batangas, Rizal, or Pampanga, with the same amount they spend on housing in Manila, people can have far more space, a small yard in front of the house, and mornings that actually feel fresh. A slower pace, cleaner air, and the clear feeling of being able to breathe. The dream of a green, peaceful, affordable life hasn't disappeared. It just no longer lives in Manila. And for you, what makes a place truly worthy of being called home? Number 4. Job opportunities are quietly leaving Manila, an unexpected shift. For many years, people believed Manila was the center of opportunity. But a quiet shift has been happening, one that not everyone notices. Jobs are no longer concentrated in the capital. Many companies have started moving out of Manila to find more manageable operating costs, wider spaces, and a less stressful work environment. And this movement has created a new wave, people following the opportunities that have just left the city. According to recent labor market surveys, provinces like Cebu, Davao, Clark, and Iloilo are attracting more and more companies, especially in the fields of services, technology, and logistics. These places have rapidly developing infrastructure, significantly lower rental costs than Metro Manila, and a more comfortable quality of life. This creates an interesting paradox. Sometimes the best opportunities no longer sit in the capital. For many young employees, this shift means a lot. Instead of squeezing through traffic every morning, they can live closer to where they work. Instead of paying too much for a cramped room, they can put that money toward a more balanced life. And for those starting families, moving somewhere calmer becomes a natural choice. People aren't leaving Manila just because things are difficult. They're leaving because new opportunities are opening up everywhere else. Manila is no longer the only center. And as the balance shifts, many prefer to follow the places with a brighter future. Opportunities aren't disappearing. They're simply moving. And Filipinos, naturally flexible, are choosing to move with them. What about you? If you found a better job opportunity in another province, would you leave Manila? Number 3. The rise of remote work. Manila is no longer the only place to grow. Years ago, having a good job almost always meant living in Manila. But now everything is changing faster than we expected. And this shift has opened a new door for many Filipinos. A service industry employee once shared that he never imagined he could leave Manila while keeping the same job. He accepted a tiny room, accepted traffic every morning, all just to stay close to the office. But everything changed when his company allowed remote work. At first, he only planned to go back to his province for a few weeks to save money. But something surprising happened immediately. Work went smoother. His mind felt lighter, and he no longer spent hours commuting each day. With the money he once used for a cramped Manila room, he could now rent a much larger place back home, with a small workspace and a window facing greenery. He said the biggest change wasn't the cost, it was the feeling of working in a space that truly fit him. After the COVID pandemic, many surveys showed a sharp rise in companies allowing remote work, especially in the service and tech sectors. This removed Manila's biggest advantage, the need to live close to the office. And suddenly, people had a choice they'd never imagined before. The surprising thing is this: people aren't leaving Manila because opportunities are gone. They're leaving because opportunities can now travel with them anywhere. Remote work isn't just changing how people work, it's changing where Filipinos want to live. If you could work from anywhere, would you stay in Manila or look for a place that fits your life better? Number 2. Natural disaster risks and weak infrastructure. There are worries that people living in Manila don't even need to say out loud. Everyone simply understands. Just seeing the sky turn gray, or hearing a forecast of heavy rain, is enough for many families to brace themselves for the worst. In a city that often faces typhoons, earthquakes, and flooding, that constant sense of unease becomes part of daily life. A few hours of continuous rain can leave many roads underwater. Furniture gets soaked, vehicles break down, entire streets turn into long strips of murky water. According to many disaster risk assessments, Metro Manila is among the most flood-prone areas in the country because urban growth has expanded faster than drainage systems can be upgraded. What worries people even more is that this happens every single year, leaving residents anxious every time the rainy season arrives. And the fear isn't only about floods. Strong typhoons with intense winds also make families uneasy, especially in places with older houses or aging electrical systems. Each time a storm is announced, people check their roofs, prepare flashlights, charge power banks, and wonder whether their area can withstand the next round of strong winds. No one leaves Manila because of a single storm. They leave because they don't want to spend their whole lives preparing for storms. When every year becomes a cycle of waiting for floods, waiting for blackouts, waiting for damage, people start looking for somewhere safer and more stable for their families. We cannot control disasters, but we can choose where we live. And for many Filipinos, leaving Manila is simply a way to protect their peace. What about you? Have you ever experienced a moment when you had to race against a sudden storm or heavy rain in the capital? Number 1. The reverse migration back to the provinces. The Balik Probinsya movement. In recent years, something interesting has been happening, though not everyone notices it. While many assume the trend is to move toward Manila for opportunities, the flow of people is quietly shifting in the opposite direction. Provinces like Cavite, Pampanga, Batangas, Cebu, and Davao are seeing more people return. And the Balik Probinsya movement is rewriting the story of how Filipinos choose where to live. One man who had lived in Manila for more than 10 years said he never imagined leaving the capital. But during a trip home to visit his family, he realized things were changing. The place he once called a town with nothing now had a new mall, wider roads, reliable internet, and service companies opening branches. His friends told him they could work remotely or in hybrid setups and still grow their careers while living close to family. That's when he realized something surprising. A good life no longer depends on staying in Manila. According to many recent social surveys, Filipinos are beginning to prioritize balance over hustle and family closeness over proximity to the office. As provinces develop faster, infrastructure improves, and job opportunities spread out, many are realizing that their future doesn't have to be in a crowded and expensive city. The most important truth is this: the Balik Probinsya movement isn't just about leaving Manila. It's about returning to a life that feels safer, closer, and truer to what people value. Manila will always be the heart of the Philippines, but that heart is no longer the only place where someone can build their future. And you, have you ever imagined that one day, going back to the province might become the wisest choice for yourself? Manila has always been the heart of the Philippines, a place full of opportunities and meaningful stories. But the 10 reasons in today's video reveal a clear reality. Filipinos are changing the way they choose where to live. From cost of living, transportation, and personal space, to work and overall quality of life, everything is pointing toward a bigger shift. The journey to find a life that feels calmer, more meaningful, and more sustainable for their families. Whether you're living in Manila, in the province, or abroad, this story touches on one universal truth. Everyone wants a life they feel is truly worth living. If this video helped you understand something about yourself, about the Philippines, or about your future choices, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Every perspective helps us gather more real stories to explore together. And don't forget to like and subscribe, so you won't miss the next videos about the people, culture, and everyday life of the Philippines. Thank you for staying with us until the end of today's video.